What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 10-7 MMA show. We are back after a pretty chill weekend, but a lot of interesting pieces of news have dropped since our last show on Friday. So we got a fair amount of fun things to cover. We are back in the mix. And by the way, thank you guys, everybody, for the support. Just to give a quick update as we begin the show, we are now at 9.
Wait till everybody's on. Nobody's on yet. Should we wait for people to get on?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
How about you tell me the updates? Because I'm curious.
Yeah, I'll give you the numbers. I mean, nothing too crazy, but we're now at 1,957 subs. So we're getting there. We're making our way up to 2,000. But yeah, as people start to make their way in, we'll eventually jump into these topics. But for today, what we wanted to start with was an interesting little tidbit about this Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall fight. Justin, we talked about this before we get into this little bit of new news from this new statement from Jon Jones. Where are you at right now in terms of wanting to see Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall? Are you totally past it? Do you have any interest in seeing this fight?
I don't really care about the matchup. I mean, obviously, if it plays, if it happens, I'll tune in. Depending on, it's not a fight that I am going to go out of my way for. If I should say, if I happen to be sitting around the house, maybe I'll pull it up on like VIP box or something. But this isn't a fight that I'm going to make arrangements to make sure I see. We talk about this matchup or the DDP matchup. Like the DDP matchup is way more intriguing. I think Jon Jones, I think he's incredible. I'm really appreciative of all the great fights that he's put on over the years. But it's time to hang him up, dude. It's time to stop talking about this. Hey, go out as the GOAT. Congratulations. You didn't have to face Tom Aspinall. Great. You might have won, might have lost. Doesn't matter to me, man. Is it really going to change anything? Absolutely not. Stop holding up the heavyweight division. There's too many great fighters out there that need that want a shot at fame.
I was thinking about comparing this fight. I made a video last week where Ariel was talking about the fights that he wanted to see the most this year. And he put Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall as number one. And even before this was dragged out to this insane extent, I would say that just from if you look at the matchup, to me, it's not even that super, super compelling. I mean, I always want to see Jon Jones come back. It would be amazing if Jon Jones comes back and would get this victory. But you think about it, again, we have a fairly wide gap in terms of age. Jon Jones has already achieved so much. This is more an exciting and enticing fight if you're a Tom Aspinall fan, I believe, because it's giving Tom Aspinall a chance to get probably the most sought-after scalp in the world of mixed martial arts, to try and beat Jon Jones, to be, quote-unquote, the first guy to ever do it. So I think it makes a lot of sense. But if you compare it and contrast it with, like, DDP versus Khamzat, both guys in their prime, both guys undefeated, both guys at that exact same point where both people are saying both guys might be unstoppable, unbeatable. So to me, that's much more of a compelling matchup. But do you agree with my take there? That how could you say? Yeah,
I agree with you 100%. Again, I'm an old school Jon Jones fan. Thought he was a great guy, great fighter. Put on a lot of exciting fights. Man, you remember Dominic Cruz, Gustafsson. Like, man, we've had, or not Dominic Cruz. Who am I thinking of? Dominic Reyes.
Yeah.
Dominic Reyes, awesome fight. Anthony Smith, awesome fight. Gustafsson, awesome fight. Leota Machida, awesome fight. And, I just watched a break. God damn it. Dogs I have fucking all these big ass dogs in my house. They're knocking over my shit. But like Gustafsson, incredible fight. Reyes, incredible fight. Smith, incredible fight. Daniel Cormier, not once, but twice, incredible fight. And just to listen to his breakdowns of, what was going through his head as these fights were happening in his game plan, just showing the intelligence of him as a fighter. So I'm really appreciative, but hang him up, dude. And that's nothing. Like, he went after DC, man, and DC comes out, bro, I'm 46 years old. I'm washed up. Like, why are you talking about me? What's up, H-Dog? We got a new guy in the house, it looks like.
Yeah, what's up, H-Dog?
But it's
I think H-Dog has commented before, though.
Oh, has he? Okay, sorry about that. Well, welcome back.
Welcome back. Yeah.
But one of those things, it's just like, why are we talking about a guy you've already beat twice? He's old, he's washed up, he's in the booth, I don't know, man. What are you going back to that for, man? That'd be like Jose Aldo calling out Uriah Faber when he beat him in WEC. Like, you beat him so long ago, like it's basically irrelevant.
Now, speaking of this fight, speaking of maybe the lack of interest in at least with respect to us, there was some news this weekend because, as you know, or we kind of talked about it last time, Jon Jones and Nate Diaz are off doing this Russian version of The Ultimate Fighter in Thailand. Apparently, they're getting paid an astronomical amount. That's what I've heard. So that's what Ariel Helwani said, that they're getting paid an ungodly amount of money. Props to them. So, I mean, I think it's dope that Jon Jones is doing this. But listen to this little clip, Justin. So as we're waiting, Dana White continues to promise us that Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall is happening. But check this out. So I'm gonna kind of skip through this. This is him. He's enjoying himself. He's out here. He says, "Hey, been out here in Thailand, enjoying life, stuffing my face every day. I swear I'm losing weight somehow. The quality of the food here is amazing. So delicious, so clean." Okay, so he's kind of living it up. And then people are saying, "Hey, you're going to be stripped." He goes, "Stripped? Do I come across as the type of person who cares about things like that?" So now it's almost like he's alluding to the fact that he doesn't care so much. Fine, strip me. I don't care. I've already achieved what I need to achieve. And then he goes, "Y'all barking up the wrong tree. I told the UFC my plans a long time ago. No clue why they haven't shared them with you guys yet, or Tom Aspinall." So very interesting. So he's basically saying now, hey, I told them the plan. I wasn't going to planning to fight anytime soon in the next 6 months, 9 months, or year, whatever it may be. Okay, now we come to the very interesting, people are attacking him. He's fighting back. We come to a very interesting clip. Check this out, Justin.
Is working out for my good. Now, after all of this, footage has emerged on social media of Jon saying that he's done fighting. In the footage, Jon is FaceTiming his old friend Kamil Gaziev. He was impressed that Jon is still fighting and said that he still had 10 more years left. Jon replied saying he's done.
How are you, bro?
Everything is fine, my
You're
friend.
doing good, my man. I'm excited to see you, bro.
But you're still active. 10 years left, but you're still active.
He said you got 10 years left, but you're still active.
Oh, yeah, I'm done.
You got a little girl, he's like, oh.
And that's going to wrap it up.
So you hear that, Justin? So he says in there, I've listened to that clip a couple of times. I'm wondering if he's saying, you know how sometimes people, when you're making them laugh, they're like, no, I'm done. I can't handle this anymore. Like they want you to stop. Was he saying it that way when they said, hey, you got 10 years left, you're still active? And he's like, no, I'm not active anymore. I'm done. I'm retired. I'm done. How do you interpret that?
You're not gonna like my answer, man. I'm not asking to move on from the subject or anything, but I really just don't care, man. We talk about Jon Jones being a mass manipulator of the press, of his fight. Oh, I'm going to need 6 months to train for this fight, playing mind games all the time. Now, if you're Tom Aspinall and you see that video, like now you're like, oh, are we fighting? Are we not fighting? Dana White says we are. Jon says he's done. Like, I think these are all just manipulation tactics. And, we've talked about it on air and off air. It's just like, I just don't care, man. I don't care. He can say whatever he wants. He needs 6 months to train. He is going to fight. He's not going to fight. Just like we've talked about on the show. Yeah, the mind games, as MGL4 Production says. We've talked about on the show, us feeding into this, the things he says is what he wants, because we're talking about it. We got 10 people on the line watching us talk about these mind games. Jon Jones, we're feeding into what he wants, man. He wants us to talk about this. And then maybe he thinks like, oh, when the fight's announced, everyone's like, oh my God, he said he was done and now he's back. Oh my God. If we all just ignore him and put him to the side, all this stuff is going to be put away, man. And Jon Jones won't be able to manipulate us. And that's why the fight's lost all its luster to me. And I just don't care what he says. I don't care what anybody in the UFC says until I see that the fight is official. The fight isn't happening. I don't think Jon wants it to happen. After watching him with an old washed up Stipe, a guy that didn't even want to be there and fight, and how it lasted so long. I just don't think it's a good matchup. And I think Jon just needs to retire and go to commentary, go to fight analysis, because his fight IQ is so high. I think he'd be great to listen to in the booth, but stop talking about you're going to fight, man. And even against Stipe, man, he does, like at heavyweight, you see these guys put on mass and they're ripped. They have 6-pack and 8-pack, and their veins, like he has a gut hanging over his pants, man. He doesn't look like he's in shape. I mean, he's a super athlete, so he can get away with it, but there's nothing impressive about Jon Jones to me right now.
Well, that's fair. Look, from the standpoint of excitement, I agree with you that my excitement has totally been drained for this fight. It's just getting old. And I think if they did strip him, I don't think it's a big deal. If he changed his mind at some point and wants to come back and challenge for the belt, he could do it. I think it would still be cool. I get that the UFC makes it becomes a bigger deal as Jon Jones is the challenger, or is the defending champ, as opposed to the challenger. I can see that. But yeah, at this point, I say let's move on as well. And let's see Tom Aspinall fight somebody else. I'm sure Tom Aspinall is going crazy. Is it mind games? We don't know, but let's move on. We got a couple other comments about this. Rafi says, Jon is Dana's boyfriend. That's why he's not being stripped yet. Jones should have retired after beating Stipe. He's destroying his legacy. I don't actually take it as him destroying his legacy. I'm one of the people that I disagree that this is such a a big blow to his legacy. I think his legacy is still totally intact, and this will be a small footnote in the grand scheme of things, I think, down the line. But that's just my opinion. Of course, I'm Gal4 Productions. Let's go. Shemaev getting smashed Duplessis. I agree. Andrew Nance right there with the LFG. Let's effing go, boys. And Rafi also says, we already knew that Jones is done. He ain't fighting Aspinall. Dana just keep yeah, I don't understand. That's the one thing that trips me out. Dana will not relent. He still continues to say this fight is happening. I don't know if that's a game. I don't know if he's trying to put pressure on Jones. But like Justin said, let's move on. Okay, we have one pretty interesting fight over the weekend. I don't know if you had a chance to see this, but I'd love to know your thoughts on Michael Morales. Holy smokes, like I didn't know too much about him.
No, 25 years old, 18-0.
25, dude. He's only 25. So that's what I was, and I watched that fight. Man, he dude. Okay, what are your thoughts right off the bat? Because I look at Gilbert Burns as such a high-level competitor. He did, he had a great performance against Shemaev, even though he lost, but it was a well-fought fight. Obviously, almost beat Kamaru Usman. If you remember when he did fight Kamaru for the title, he dropped him, I think, with I can't remember if it was a 2 or a 1, but it was like a stiff shot. He dropped Kamaru. Kamaru got back and eventually put him away. But Gilbert Burns is incredible. And Michael Morales, I mean, it was almost a shutout, the way that he just kept letting him up with the strikings. Gilbert Burns had some kind of like decent, or not very good takedown attempts and grappling attempts, but he really had no answers. And the striking of Morales was just too much. What's your take on this guy? What do you think of Michael Morales in the welterweight division?
I mean, 25 years old, 18-0, just puts away Gilbert Burns. Now, is Gilbert Burns the fighter that he once was? And absolutely not. We talk about the mileage. We talk about the wars he's been in. Hamzat, Usman, just to name 2 off the get. And, man, there's so many great fights this guy is big in, but the most recent one, obviously, that sticks out to you the most is Hamzat, man. It goes to decision with Hamzat, man. For Michael Morales to come in there and do what he did to even an old Gilbert Burns is nothing short of impressive. And I think this kid has a big future in the UFC.
18-0, 6-0 in the UFC. If you don't include the Contender Series, if you do, he's 7-0. That seems pretty unprecedented. Now I'm here. Let's take a look at his record together. You can see he's a finisher too. He said something really funny. Apparently, he said that he was planning to get this with a first-round KO or a fifth-round submission. That was his plan on 2 opposite ends of the spectrum. I don't know why he said that. Look at this.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, 1 decision. 2 decisions.
But you look at a lot of his guys, Tijuana, Mexico, United States, like go down, if you don't mind. Sorry, go back down. Yeah. Tijuana, Ecuador, like those aren't known for produce. I mean, Mexico, obviously, yes, but they're not known for producing world beaters. But again, 7-0 in the UFC counting Contender Series, puts away Gilbert Burns. This guy could be something special. Max Griffin, Jake Matthews, Neil Magny is old. I think Neil's a little old. Jake Matthews, not superly impressed with Jake Matthews. Max Griffin, though, a guy I train with, super, super tough guy, grinds out a decision, man. I think this guy's he's onto something. He's something special.
I mean, but Justin, you say, okay, Neil Magny, kind of old. You say Gilbert Burns, maybe he's past that point. But I mean,
they're still world-class fighters.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's still got to be a massive, like most, top 15 or top 20 guys could not beat those guys, regardless of maybe they're not in their peak, right? So it's got to say something. And then a first-round knockout. Not only that, it was, like I said, it was essentially a shutout. So to me, this guy with his age, his athleticism, his record, holy smokes, it's crazy. Now, this brings us to a bigger point about the welterweight division. This is the most insane division right now. Everybody says welterweight division is on fire. Literally, I could name 5 people who would be reasonable contenders in the welterweight division right now. And it's not going to be any of them because we're going to have Islam coming up and challenging JDM. Like, it's bananas. We're going to get to a potential matchup in the welterweight division later on. But Justin, do you like what's happening in welterweight, or do you feel like almost it's overwhelming because there's so many options?
I wouldn't say it's overwhelming, but it's exciting. And, we talked about it last week. It's just what the UFC needs. And the UFC needs some excitement in the division. And, if Hamzat goes up there and handles, or excuse me, I'm going to middleweight. I always see Hamzat. When you ever say Hamzat, I always assume welterweight because he started off as welterweight. So I always bring him into the welterweight mix.
Yeah.
But even for both of these divisions, I think they needed some excitement. They needed some guys to really step up. And now Islam going up to 170. I mean, unfortunately for a lot of 170 pounders like Ian Garry, it's going to put a lot of guys on hold. Shavkat, you have Shavkat, you have Belal. Fuck, man. Shavkat, Belal, Ian Garry,
Sean Brady.
Like a lot of these guys are going to get on hold because Islam moving up. And I'm not saying it's the wrong thing to do, but if I was those guys, it's not the wrong thing to do. But if I was one of those guys, I'd be pretty bummed because, you look at Ian Garry, who looks great, who has looked great. Like, it's going to be a long time possibly before he gets a title shot. And he's more than deserving.
And we got Shavkat waiting. Just trying to, like, the whole thing is so bananas. JDM number 5 snuck in there, got the title shot, won. And Belal. What about, I feel like Belal's going to move up. I've been thinking about this more and more. We're going to talk about this later on the show. I made a video on, Friday or Saturday, about a matchup that I will be so excited about with Belal. But yeah, we still have technically right now, but I mean, it's just a log jam at the top of the welterweight division. It's so crazy. And we're going to talk about a potential matchup a little bit later in the show. But anyways, coming back to Michael Morales, now he's getting in the mix. Let's see where he gets ranked. Maybe 8, maybe 7, maybe 6. Who knows with that very definitive victory. We got a question from Johnny Monday. It's probably more of a question for you because I've seen highlights of Fedor, but I'm not nearly as well versus Fedor. He never fought in the UFC. It's just not, obviously I know a fair amount about him, but he says, I've got one question for you today. How would prime Fedor perform against UFC elite, prime young Fedor, when he ruled Pride? I imagine you probably know more about Fedor than I do. So Justin, let me turn it over to you.
Fedor Emelianenko, obviously one of the greatest of all time. And, it's funny that you're asking this question because I just watched. And guys, listen, I'm going to be straight with you. I love the sport of MMA, but you guys have to understand, as soon as I wake up in the morning, I go to the gym. I have to talk about MMA. And I talk to fighters and I do this and I train and this and I coach. And then I come home and then I have the podcast I do. And then I have about a 2-hour window where I can just not do anything. And then I go back to the gym and I talk to fighters. So to watch interviews like Huzaifa does and the way he's on it, I'm not that on it. But with this being said, to this question, I just watched an interview with Rampage Jackson talking about who the toughest guy he's ever fought. And for Rampage to say that Fedor was, that when he hits you from all these different angles and his blitzing technique, he had an unorthodox, and he has like this technique that DDP does. And I'm actually going to do a breakdown of it this week. I'm really excited about it, where I'm going to start doing, I'm getting really diligent with my move of the day, Monday move of the day. I'm going to start doing it today. I started doing it last week with the Underhook series, but I'm going to really start doing it today on my Instagram. But there's a technique that DDP does that Fedor does. And it's typically, and I'm going to demonstrate on my cam. When you box, your lead leg will go out when your jab comes out. So you're like this. Boom. All right. Yep. That's how you're taught. That's how I was taught. Now, when you have DDP, he does a switch step where he'll throw his left hand and step to the right. And then he'll step to the left. All right, so instead of traditional, instead of throwing the left jab, we're going here to here. Shut up,
dude! It makes my head hurt thinking about trying to do that. That's so crazy. But and people have talked about the wonky footwork, but you're right. And I think so you're going to do a breakdown on DDP's basically like technique.
I don't know how I don't know if I'm going to do it this week because I want to put a little time into it and I want to get some clips from his fights of him doing it. And then it's going to be me demonstrating myself doing it because it's not that unorthodox of a technique. I learned the technique when I was in college from Derek Cruikshank. It's really just because we set up our double leg offense. So you throw your left hand and you step with your right foot instead of traditionally stepping your left foot with your left hand. Fedor was really good at that, like that blitzing technique that DDP does. I don't know if he could compete in today's. Shut up. I don't know if he could compete in today's world. I'm going to be honest with you. Listen to guys like Fedor and Rampage talk about how powerful he was and how incredible he was, and he was. But again, could Rampage compete with guys this guy? I think guys, just like in every sport, football, basketball, guys are bigger, guys are stronger, guys are faster. Techniques are a lot sharper now. So it's hard for me to say whether he could or couldn't. Unfortunately, we'll never know.
Yeah.
I know that's not the answer you're looking for, but I'm not going to say. I'm humble enough. If I don't know something or if I'm not sure of something, I'm humble enough to say that I just don't know.
It's interesting to hear Rampage's opinion in particular because Rampage is one guy that fought Fedor and he fought Jon Jones. So that's pretty cool that he thinks that highly of Fedor after fighting Jon Jones. He always talks very highly about Jon Jones as a fighter and his fight IQ and maybe throws in a couple sly comments here and there. But by the way, just going back to that video that you were talking about DDP, and I'll help you edit it too because we'll make it that's such a cool idea. If you could break down, in my opinion, guys, chime in the chat with your thoughts if you agree or disagree. But how cool would it be if Justin went in and you took like his 6 or 5 or whatever most known techniques or interesting strategies of like his footwork with his blitzing or why he does this or how he throws particular kicks. Dude, like these are the top 5 things that Dricus implements in a fight that you have to look for and that separate him into being elite. I'll help you edit it and break it down into little segments and chunks. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that would be cool? I would be so fascinated to see something like that. Just looking at how Justin, just how we're typically taught to throw a 1 or a 1-2 or things like that and pivot our feet. When because I've been doing it for 6 years now, that very similar footwork, which makes sense to your brain. That's a lot of times why striking is done the way it's done. It's based on physics and mechanics and momentum. That's what my coach always explains to me, Pete, who Justin trained with, Pete Panos, is it's all about, hey, why do you follow up a 1 with a 2? It's because your body is naturally pivoting and swinging that way. So when DDP does it in these awkward, quote unquote, awkward ways or atypical ways, he's going against typical physics and typical body dynamics, and it feels clunky. It sounds awkward, but I'd love to see that breakdown. I think that'd be super, super cool. Oh, Andrew, wait, you said you saw me shout out Oscar on, are you talking about the Submission Radio interview? I think that's what you're talking about. So Oscar Willis was on Submission Radio doing a live stream, and I was like, yo, Oscar, you the man. I don't know if he remembered me, though, from being on our show. He just said something about my photo making me look like AI. It was pretty funny. Is that what you're talking about, Andrew? That was cool. Anyway,
you know the 10-7. He's been on the show at least once, if not twice.
Yeah, he's been on once. I wasn't sure though if you remembered my name. But anyways, it is what it is. Okay, moving on to topic number 3, another fun little topic. So if you guys haven't heard, Pat, I'm gonna probably make a separate video about this at some point later in the week. Paddy sat down and did an interview with the TNT guys, the UK whatever journalists, and it's crazy, by the way, too. His face already looks puffed out, but he's talking about how he hasn't actually put on that much weight. He was saying that when he eats a lot and when he gets out of camp and stuff like that, his face just naturally puffs up. It is what it is. But anyways, I digress. He was talking about his future in the lightweight division and saying, I wouldn't be surprised if he's like, it's probably better for my career if Ilia goes out there and beats Charles, because I wouldn't be surprised. And this got me thinking, it got me so excited. He's like, I wouldn't be surprised if Ilia goes out there and wins and I'm sitting front row and he calls me out to challenge me next. Remember when Sean O'Malley called out Chito Vera in a similar situation? They had a beef. They had something going back. And there were other people that were ranked higher that made more sense to come up and fight Sean O'Malley. But Sean O'Malley basically manifested that fight with Chito Vera because of the beef, and the UFC was totally on board. I think they could do the exact same thing here. And I was like, holy smokes, it would make perfect sense. And if I was UFC, I would 100% do this, because you don't want to risk Paddy taking a loss and not being able to make this massive fight, especially for the belt. On top of that, if Ilia actually loses, dude, they have to do Paddy versus Ilia, which means I believe that the next fight for Paddy Pimblett is going to be against Ilia Topuria, whether it's for the belt or not. Justin, what do you think about this? Do you think I'm on?
It's so yeah, dude. It's so simple. The UFC could do this so easily. It's a 4-man tournament. You have Ilia versus Justin Gaethje, and then you have Paddy versus Charles Oliveira. The 2 winners face each other for the belt. The 2 losers face each other to see who's next in contention, or at least maybe next after that in contention. I think it could be, the UFC I don't think the UFC wants to do tournament format because the PFL and Bellator are doing that. And I don't think they want to adopt something another organization is doing, because people are like, oh, well, they're just following what the PFL is doing or what Bellator is doing. But as a fan, how exciting would that be if they put a bracket together and post it? Hey man, here's our 4-man lightweight tournament. Here's Ilia Topuria, going against Justin Gaethje, perhaps for the belt. And then whoever wins the belt, the next contender is Paddy versus Charles Oliveira, man. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Not exactly. I'm saying that, okay, so we have this fight with with Ilia versus Charles coming up June 28th, International Fight Week. What I'm saying is
I'm sorry, Ilia versus, I think I said Charles versus Paddy. Ilia versus Charles. And then Paddy versus Justin Gaethje, which they're talking about, and then the winners of that fight for the belt.
So they are talking about that. What I'm saying something different. Okay, that I think that I've heard that been discussed, and also Paddy said in that interview, he's like, hey, I'll fight Justin, but he's like, it's up to him. Basically saying he would do it if Justin accepts. I guess that's going to happen. But I'm saying something different. I'm saying I don't think they should make the Justin versus Paddy fight. I think instead what the UFC should do, and Paddy alluded to this, I think instead what the UFC should do is have Paddy go to the fight on International Fight Week, have him sit front row. If Ilia wins, Ilia calls out Paddy to fight, to jump the line and challenge for the belt because they have pre-existing beef. And I think the UFC would play ball, and I think it would be a massive fight. And I think that's super exciting. Conversely, if Ilia loses, then they just put him against Paddy anyways because he loses. Fine, that fight, that's easier to kind of make, not as exciting. But I'm saying in either case, the next fight for Paddy should be against Ilia, whether it's for the title or not. And that's what I'm wondering, what do you think about that? Do you think that's feasible? And does that get you excited?
No, I mean, the matchup gets me excited, but for him to go in there and beat a Michael Chandler that's 2-4, and then get an immediate, or 2-5 or 2-6, and then get an immediate title shot after that, I don't think it's unwarranted. I don't think he's done enough in the division. I mean, I know he's undefeated. Again, he beat Michael Chandler. That's great. But everyone's beaten Michael Chandler except Tony Ferguson and Dan Hooker, like 5 years ago. Like he's just a gatekeeper. I thought it was an incredible win for him, but I think he needs to do a little bit more in the division. And there's no way I can justify him bypassing one of my favorite fighters, Justin Gaethje, for a title.
That's the part that's tough, right?
But look, you put Ilia against Gaethje, he wins. Gaethje retires because Gaethje's not going to want to lose. Here's my thought, knowing Justin Gaethje. I don't think that if he goes in there and loses to a featherweight coming up, that he's going to think in his head, oh, I can still compete. He might just want to retire in the ring there. Now, Ilia has credibility at lightweight. Paddy goes in there. Geez, I keep fucking these guys up. Ilia versus Charles, I'm sorry. If Ilia goes in there and beats Charles, now he has credibility at lightweight. Paddy goes in there and beats Justin Gaethje. Now he has credibility at lightweight. Now the fight makes sense. But right now, I just don't feel either Ilia or Paddy have done enough in the division to put something together like that.
Yeah, and that could be it. I think a lot of people would probably agree with you. You know me, because I love that drama and I love that beef element. That's why it got me excited. I'm like, this could be as big. I mean, maybe not as big, obviously, as Conor versus Khabib, but like in that vicinity. Because Paddy is such a good.
I don't think so. I think that's. I mean, Conor versus Khabib was wow. The buildup that there will never be a buildup like that ever. I mean, Conor straight up and committed felonies in this
multiple
felonies, injured other fighters. Yes. I remember Felice Herrig was on that bus, and this is like as hot as Felice is, and she's, and I don't know her personally, but I have PTSD, like the glass broke around. Like, shut the fuck up. You fight in the cage against other world beaters and glass broke around. I got PTSD. You had like I'm trying to think of his name. Oh man, Michael Chiesa.
Yeah, Michael Chiesa.
He got cut from the glass breaking and had to pull out of his. I think he pulled out of his fight. Like that kind of buildup will never be replicated. Never. There's Chael Sonnen versus Anderson Silva. Nope. You got Conor McGregor versus who's the money man? Money team.
Floyd Mayweather.
Incredible buildup, but it wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
And for Khabib to go out there and do what he did, and then jump the cage and try to stop, there will never, ever, ever be a fight like that, and nobody in the world can ever compare a buildup like that.
Oh my God! I still go back and watch that press conference. The one.
Okay, name another one that you go back and watch.
Yeah, that's it. I've watched that press conference with Khabib versus Conor. It's kind of dark though. It actually almost gives you like a sick feeling in your stomach. It's such bad energy, but like just hearing, that intensity, man. It was incredible. If you guys for people that are out there that are newer fans, go back and watch that. I even have gone back and watched the old Embedded episode for that whole buildup. That Embedded is crazy. It's like the Embedded have gotten way better, and it's a little bit drawn out, you could say, but it's just that energy and that excitement and that buildup. It was just all real. And then Ali Abdelaziz was in the mix, talking smack to Conor. Conor was yelling. The whole thing was crazy. It was just so much energy and momentum. That thing was nuts. All right, you're right. Nothing will compare to that, but it could be a piece of that magic. We could have an element of that magic.
It'd be incredible if it was a 10th. And again, there's been just some incredible matchups, and man, it's that's something that will never go down. What it reminded me of especially the bus incident, is I got into MMA. I got into folk style, freestyle wrestling because of WWE, because of Stone Cold Steve Austin, because of Rocky Maivia, The Rock, Mankind. And they used to have these crazy things to where they'd go in like the parking lot and they'd run each other over with cars. And, you know, and it was like, well, and that's, I think, why I got so excited, because it was like almost like a deja vu of when I was 8, 9 years old, 10 years old, watching, you know, these guys, they're on the buses attacking each other with weapons. And I remember Steve Austin would get hit with a car. They'd put him up in the ambulance and they'd get in the ambulance, drag him out, throw him on the ground. He had his neck brace on, beating him up on the ground. Like, that's what it reminded me of. And that's what got me so excited about it.
It was so crazy. We got people in the comments. We're going to highlight a couple of these. Do human highlight. I think you're talking about Justin Gaethje. We've also got Andrew Nance saying, yeah, he's talking about the Khabib versus Conor Billups. That one's when the UFC was fun. I hear people kind of saying that about the UFC. I actually think it's peaking right now, honestly. Like, we don't have obviously those types of buildups or those types of crazy antics, but I think the UFC is crushing it right now, personally. Oh, Malice at the Palace, let's go, Detroit Pistons. That was insane. If you go back now, if you've been a fight fan for a while, you go back now and watch the actual fighting of those NBA players. It's so funny, because growing up, I used to think NBA players were such like tough guys and like they knew how to fight and they could crush anybody. Then once you kind of pay attention to fighting and fight technique and stuff like that, like, they're so bad at fighting. Most of them are just, dude, do you know who the Island Boys are?
Yeah, I watched their boxing match.
Oh my God, that was crazy. Elite props to them for at least getting in there. I have to start with that.
In front of people, yeah. Which they're terrible.
They're so
I would put
bad.
my 16-year-old son against them and expect him to win.
Well, yeah, I mean, dude, I was just shocked because they talk like they're such tough guys, you know, and they're not very big. I'm not that big of a guy either. I could probably fight, like, get into a position with the correct weight cut and everything where I could be in that same weight class, I think, and fight them. But dude, they're so, I was shocked how they talk about how they like to fight and they're not afraid of anybody, and like they do not know how to fight at all. And I think it was a kickboxing match.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was boxing. But
well, they did it. They boxed each other, and then one of the brothers had a kickboxing match with another guy, but they only threw punches. But he just got so lit up there; it was terrible.
Keep in mind, when people say I'm not afraid of anybody, confidence and stupidity, there's a very fine line there. There's a very fine gray line, and being confident and being stupid are the same. All right, they're terrible. If I would put you up against both of them at the same time, I've seen your kickboxing, I think they'd rush in, you'd teep one, hurt one to the body, and then 2, 3 the other one. Like they're beyond terrible. I have a 16-year-old 200-pound son, which is fucking weird. And I would put him against them all day, every day.
Yeah, it was great. Anyway, it was just funny because I've kind of been following those guys since they came onto the scene, and now they kind of had a fall from grace. And I don't know, their story fascinates me for some reason, just because like there was nothing there, but then I don't know how they built this fame and made all this money and then blew all this money within such a short period of time. And now like one of them's on the street. One of them is apparently homeless now. And then they had this boxing match, and then they've done all these, like, they're so bizarre. And then the face like they're insane to me how they've just taken the internet by storm and had this crazy, like, super fast rise ascension and then fall from grace. I don't know. But anyways, so they got in there and they fought. I thought that was really fascinating. At some point, I'll probably make a video just like breaking down that fight. But yeah, holy crap, they cannot fight. Okay, moving on. Back to the welterweight division. Another interesting matchup. Ian Garry and Sean Brady were recently on Ariel Helwani's show, and they're talking about a potential matchup being between the two of them. I mean, look where the welterweight division is right now. I think it makes a lot of sense. Ian Garry, who we have to give props to, will fight anybody. He will not back down from a fight. So I'm sure push comes to shove, if the UFC offers him this fight, of course he'll take it. I mean, he fought Carlos Prates, which had no upside. You said that was a stupid decision. So of course he'll take it.
Shavkat was a stupid decision too.
Yeah. But I think, Shavkat, well, yeah, short notice. I mean, that was crazy. I mean,
this is another stupid decision.
Well, wait, tell me about it. I want to hear your thoughts. So you don't.
It's again, he puts himself in a position to where he has to win.
That's
you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's going against top contenders. Shavkat, 18-0, now 19-0. Then who did he just beat? Carlos Prates with 4-0 with 4 finishes. Now you have Sean Brady, who just handled his last opponent. Like, if he loses any of these fights, which he's already lost one, if he loses two, if he goes 1-2, he's 2 or 3 fights away from a title shot. And right now, I think he's eligible to be backup.
Oh, you think he should be backup for the title fight? Yeah, but he was just backup.
Sean Brady, he's 2 fights away from a title fight.
So Justin, let's look at these. Let's look at the fighters in the top 7 here. So I've got it pulled up. You can't see Joaquin Buckley because it's blocked out, but Joaquin Buckley is number 7. Who do you think Ian Garry should fight next? Wait, you're saying Ian taking on?
I can't believe he's ranked number 6. I think he should be ahead of Kamaru Usman for sure.
Yeah, think about how active he's been. You're right. That's true. Whoa, I didn't even think about that.
Leon Edwards is what he's like 1-3 or 1-2 in his last 3. I think Ian Garry, I don't think Sean Brady is the right matchup. I think Ian Garry versus Leon Edwards, and Leon Edwards is coming off a loss.
That'd be good.
I agree. I couldn't care less about Belal. Maybe Belal versus Sean Brady. Shavkat goes for the title. Ian Garry versus Leon Edwards, but I don't. Kamaru Usman, man. I mean, he's a great. Don't get me wrong, but was a great. I don't think he's a great anymore, man. And I hate. I always get fear of saying things like that because I'm such a Usman fan, and I'd feel so bad if you ever saw me say this, in our podcast. But dude, I mean, his injuries have just taken over his career, and the motivation of coming back from an injury and fighting another really tough guy. I just don't think there's any reason he should be in the top 5.
I think Kamaru Usman beats Joaquin Buckley, but that's an aside. You disagree there?
No, I don't disagree. I can see that happening. I mean, I think Usman. I'm going to go back to Kobe Teeth. Kobe Teeth. I'm like a retard. Toby Keith. He ain't as good as he once was, but he's as good once as he ever was. And I think he could come into the division and shock some people and beat some guys that people don't think he can beat. But with that being said, I don't think he can do it over and over and over. I think he's a one and done kind of guy. Again, Toby Keith. He's not as good as he once was, but he's as good once as he ever was. And that's just, if it's his night and his opponent's having an off night, he can beat anybody. But again, it'd have to be a perfect circumstance.
Well, it's very interesting. Anyways, in the state of affairs with the welterweight division, I've heard Shavkat said he might be returning from his injury in October. Belal apparently has a fractured orbital. God knows when he'll be back. I actually don't think he's going to stick around in welterweight. We're going to talk about that in our final topic number 5. It's our next topic. Let's go. I've been waiting to talk to you about this. We are talking about Sean Strickland, who I made a video about earlier this weekend, as I mentioned at the top of the show. Sean Strickland had an interview with Helen Yee, and I think it was after they had a sparring session. You mentioned that you actually were there live and you saw the sparring session, which I was like, I saw the video, but I don't want to watch this. I don't want to watch him beating up Helen Yee. Like, this just sounds horrible. But apparently it was very respectful. It was all good. Nobody got hurt.
When it comes to women, I'll be honest, when it comes to women, Sean is he's very reasonable.
Okay.
He's like, he's Sean is Sean, all right? And I'm not going to say he's an upstanding citizen by any means, but he wouldn't go in there and beat up Helen. Him and Helen are buddies.
Okay. Yeah.
And same with, who's the other girl? Nina Drama.
Yeah, Nina Drama. Yeah, I'm not trying to say that I'm not saying that I would think.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I just know that when he can't seem to hold himself back from when he spars these novices, which are essentially like you're just beating up a kid. You know what I mean? So I just got scared that his reptilian brain would kick in. He wouldn't be able to control himself, and God knows, like, somebody would get hurt. But thank God. Anyways, it didn't happen. The video was all good. He went really light, and then afterwards they have this awesome interview. But in the interview, I said this before, as soon as Belal lost the championship, I'd love to see Belal move up and fight Sean Strickland. However, I didn't think Sean would want it. I didn't think he would be interested in that fight. I thought Sean was going to take on Israel Adesanya. They were going to have a rematch. That would be a great fight for both of them, and we would see what would happen. And the winner of that might be right back in title contention. Instead, in this interview, Sean said to Helen Yee that he doesn't have a fight right now, which leads me to believe that maybe he doesn't want the Izzy fight. And I don't know if you know anything about that or not, but that made me think, man, I don't think he wants the Izzy fight. Otherwise, he'd be saying, yo, I want Izzy. That's what's next. Try and push the hand of the UFC into that. But he didn't say that. Instead, he said, Belal, let's go. You just lost. You just got beat up. I just got beat up. Move up. Let's fight at middleweight. You talking all that trash. Let's see what you got. Let's see if you can do it. Justin, what do you think? Do you think this is in the realm of possibility? Belal Muhammad versus Sean Strickland. Also, Sean Strickland just had a really bad nose break. I don't know where that is in the process in terms of recovery. Bilal Muhammad, broken orbital. They both need some time to recover and recuperate. Do you think that this all makes sense?
I would love to see the matchup. I think Sean would weight bully him around. I think Bilal would take a shot. Sean is a very big guy, guys. Like, you guys don't understand. Like, when I stand next to Sean, I feel like a small person. And not that I'm big by any means, I'm only 5'7", 180 pounds. But when I stand next to Sean, like Sean, I'm a small person. And that's another thing. Like, people don't understand how good his grappling and wrestling is, just because he has that, that traditional, like, straight up stand, teep kicks, straight punches. But the guy can wrestle, man. And he's in the gym wrestling, 2-3 days a week. He's grappling. I think it's a terrible matchup for Bilal, and I'm pretty sure that Sean would just be a weight bully.
It's so interesting to me. When's the last time that Sean went up against somebody with that type of style where they have a kind of like they mix it up really well? They do a lot of grappling and mix it in with striking. I don't think Sean's really fought somebody like that. And that's why this matchup, aside from the trash talk, because the trash talk is great. I think the build-up and the press, as much as you don't like Bilal, those two would go back and forth amazingly well. Because Bilal's not going to take a step back. Sean will talk all sorts of crazy stuff. Bilal will say all sorts of crazy stuff. It would be so good. But aside from that, you always talk about, and Eric Nixick always talks about how good Sean Strickland's grappling and wrestling is. I'd love to see. I want to see it. I want to see what Sean Strickland can do. Can he just, push back against all of his takedown attempts, all of his grappling attempts? Maybe, like you said, bully him around and just keep it more on the stand-up and let Sean kind of use that Philly shell and that amazing jab that he has and just make it look easy against Bilal. Or would Bilal get his, aren't you curious to see it? Or do you feel like it's a foregone conclusion and Sean's going to get it?
I'd like to see it happen because, we can sit here and talk about how often am I wrong, though. And I'm wrong more than half the time. Usually it's just crazy because I don't know, man. When you have like a football team, you have a good football team playing a bad football team. I'm not saying the bad football team can't win, but for the most part, what's going to happen. That's why they have the odds makers. Sometimes you get 10-point dogs, but in MMA, there's so many things that we don't know. How hard was it? Was it a bad weight cut? How is the fight camp? Is he dealing with injuries when it comes to football? Okay, well, hey, maybe our quarterback or our running back's injured, but you look at the Lions. David Montgomery, all-star quarterback, got injured. Well, Jahmyr Gibbs was able to fill in and take that workload and make up for that. In MMA, that doesn't work. If you break your hand or you have an injury, like Sean talked about having a broken arm, fighting who was his fight with the broken arm? DDP the second time. He talked about his broken arm, his broken nose. Like, it's not like you can call Eric and, hey, give me a new arm for this fight. Although, hey, I didn't use it as much, but I still at least have something fresh. And that's the difference between MMA is we don't know all that nagging stuff leading up to that fight. So we'll see.
Right. Somebody, we're going to highlight a couple comments here. Rafi says Bilal is good for welterweight, but he's going to be a bit small for middleweight. Do you agree with that? I know you're saying so. Sean's you do agree with that.
I think he's going to be a bit small I think he's. With that being said, though, we have to look at the other side of the coin. His weight cuts are going to be easy. And I tell you what, there are times that I went up to 165, even 170. And, I know we talk about how I'm going to retire, but I still plan to fight guys. Like, when I talk about retirement, I'm just not talking about fighting at the highest level, but I'm still going to fight for like Tough Enough and Fusion Fight League and maybe some Michigan promotions. And it's probably going to be at welterweight. I'm 170, I am 5'7". I am a tiny welterweight, but I don't want to cut weight. And there's been times where I fight at welterweight. And although I might not look as ripped or jacked, I just feel so much better in condition. I just don't gas out.
Well, we shall see. By the way, we should remember Sean has fought at welterweight, so it's not that crazy. But maybe, Sean's got a bigger frame. I think he's a lot taller than Bilal. Regardless, I want to see the fight. I want to see the build-up. Press conference is going to be sick. Okay, we're getting to the last topic of the show, and this one is not going to materialize into any sort of fight, unfortunately, but it is super funny. So your boy, Henry Cejudo, who did a little cameo for you, mispronounced your last name, which is pretty funny, but Henry Cejudo and I got to pull this up, and Colby Covington had a little back and forth, which was amazing, and I thought that Henry kind of roasted him. I thought Henry really had the better of the exchange. But hold on, let me see if I can get this queued up here. This is amazing.
Henry's great on the mic, dude. I know he's cringy and stuff, but I wish that he was 6 feet tall because he'd be an incredible WWE superstar. I love him. I think he's great. I've met him a handful of times. He's always been nothing but respectful, and his trash talk is so cringy, but it's so much better than Colby's, and he can back it up. He's the 2-belt champ. Colby's never even won the belt.
That's what he says in this video. So check this out. This is the whole thing is really funny.
I saw this actually.
Okay. All right, you guys got to check this out. This is crazy. Check this out.
Fuck you.
Hey, you know what? I think he's drunk. Look at his eyes. I think he's drunk. Look at his eyes. I think he's drunk. I commented on this video. I'm like, bro, dude is drunk. Look at his eyes. Because he doesn't talk like this. He's not someone that just go, whoa. It sounds like he's slurring his words. I think he's drunk. Why?
Okay, wait. Let me hear this a little more.
Ain't got shit. Hey, say what's up? Some guy win the bell, Colby. Colby, win the bell. Win the bell, Colby. Colby coming to win game now. Let's go.
Looking at his
Actually,
eyes.
you're right.
His eyes are kind of squinted. Winning the bell. Hey, I love it. Don't get me wrong, but I think he's drunk.
He does seem messed up. Wait, hold on. There's a longer version of this. Wait, let me see if I can find it. Hold on.
Can't even retire with no bells.
He called him Bilbo Baggins. He's so mean. And then there's a little person right there. Like, Kobe's such a jerk. Okay, wait, listen.
Fire this motherfucker. He can't win shit. He can't win shit.
Kobe's sense of humor is pretty lame. He's like,
set him back. Henry Cejudo typically talks shit. It just looks out of character for me. And the way his eyes are, the way he sounds, he's drunk. And
he's
drunk. He's having a good time, man. I support it. Get drunk and talk shit. I love it.
Okay, keep watching. I think Henry gets the better of this exchange, despite him, I guess, being drunk. But check this out.
You too tired. Not once, twice, motherfucker. Ain't got shit. Yeah, take that shit in the ass. Take it in the ass. Yeah, continue to keep marketing. Double champ, Olympic champ, you ain't got shit. I still knock your ass out, you're a bum. Remember you're a little guy, though. Hey, remember you're a little guy. You get knocked the fuck out. Shark King. Shark King. Shark King's alive. Yeah, Shark King's alive, bro. Yeah.
Did you see that other dude? He's like, hey, man, you're the man. Kobe, I think, immediately feels bad for what he's saying. But then, yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a crazy exchange. And then Kobe at the end has to be like, hey, remember, you're a little guy. Man, is that kind of annoying when guys in bigger weight classes just pull that card? Hey, like, I'm a way better fighter. I've won multiple belts. Yeah, but I'm like, I got 50 pounds on you. So chill out, little man. Is that something that happens in the world of MMA?
Yeah, I don't know. Usually guys, typically, even in the gym, if they're not the same weight class, they don't really. I mean, I'm not saying that never happens, but very rarely do you see a bantamweight calling out the welterweight, man. And I'll be honest, I like Henry Cejudo, Olympic champion, 2-belt champion, beat Demetrius Johnson, won me a ton of money. I've hung out with him. One time I was at the Palms with a girl, and he comes up, he's like, "Is this your girl?" I'm like, "No, we're just hanging out." And he's like, "Hey, you want to come back to my room?" And I was like, "What a fucking gangster!" And what a cool guy to have respect, because it wasn't my girl; it was just a girlfriend of mine. And it's like to have the respect to be like, "Hey, do you mind?" I was like, "I don't care. Go ahead." He's like, "Hey, come up to my room." She didn't do it. She's a lesbian, but regardless, I just think Henry Cejudo is just a funny fucking dude, man. He's cringy, but he's funny.
He is funny. I like Henry, and I like his podcast with Kamaru Usman. They're really good. It's very underrated. So check that out. Pound for Pound podcast. All right, guys. We are nearing the end of our show. Rafi says Kobe trying to stay relevant. See, he was trying to beef with Paddy. I know that was the cringiest thing ever. I think
Paddy beats him.
I think Paddy smokes him. I think we need Kobe versus Ian Garry. UFC, please, just do me one favor. If you're gonna make Ian Garry fight somebody else, let him fight Kobe. That's a big fight.
I agree.
Force Kobe.
And he's look at like give the guy a break, man. He's already fought Shavkat 18-0. He just fought. Prates, 4-0 in the UFC, 4 finishes, the one of the highest riding stars. Give this guy a layup, get this guy a win, and let this guy, do the guy a favor. Ian Garry has grown on me. I want the UFC to do him a favor and give him no choice but to fight this fucking asshole.
Yeah, the thing is I think Colby's trying to fight it tooth and nail and doesn't want it. They're just gonna have to pay him so much that they're gonna have to say, hey, this is the only fight we're gonna offer you. That's it. Otherwise, you're gonna be cut. Oh, let's
UFC can't afford it. It's $1 billion company.
Let's hope. It would be huge. There's all these amazing matchups right there. Guys, people are saying the UFC is not fun anymore. Come on. There's all these incredible matchups, fun matchups that have been scheduled, fun potential matchups in the future. I think it's riding high. I think we are I think we're living in a little bit of a golden age, but I guess some people disagree with me, but it is what it is. I think it's super exciting. I cannot wait for the summer. Let's go. We got Hamzat versus DDP in the most anticipated fight of the year, maybe of the decade, in my opinion. So we shall see how that goes down. All right, guys, that is it for today. First of all, thank you everybody so much for all the engagement, the comments. We really appreciate it because we look at this as obviously a discussion between me and Justin, but also with you guys. And that's why we're trying to highlight your comments and weave them in. If you guys think we can be doing a better job in any way in terms of including your feedback and thoughts, please let us know. But we're having a blast. We're at 1,957 subscribers as of today, nearing in at 2,000 subs. When we have hit that 2,000 milestone, we're going to do a special show. We're going to get some special guests. We got a lot of people that Justin knows in the industry that are awesome, people that have already been on the show. So we're going to do something very special to celebrate that 2,000 marker, which is hopefully going to be happening within a week or two, I think, definitely before June. So we shall see. But anyways, thank you guys.
One more thing too. And if it's something personal or something private, like you don't want to post on the comments, hit me up directly on Instagram. I answer. Me and Celine, we talk all the time. Western Mass Climbers, he's on this show. We talk, monthly or weekly. Like, I answer all my messages. Hit me up directly. If you guys are ever in Vegas, you ever come to Vegas and you want a tour of the gym, you want to meet some fighters, hit me up. We can arrange it. It's something that I can give back to you from a platform that I have for supporting us and being a part of our community. So guys, you ever come to Vegas, hit me up directly on Instagram, Justin James, JAY09MI. Huzaifa only lives 3 hours away. I think it'd be really cool once we hit like 10,000. Maybe we do like a 10-7 party and invite all our community to go to a bar or something, and we get bottle service at a bar. And
we got to train.
Yeah, we can train and then we go get drunk. We train, we fight, and then we go get fucking drunk. I know Huzaifa doesn't drink anymore, but I'll drink enough for both of us.
There you go. All right, we're getting there, guys. 2,000 and then 10,000. So let's go. Thank you, Rafi. We really appreciate it. And we really appreciate all your comments and your engagement during the streams. It's awesome. If you guys haven't clicked that like button, if you did like the show, make sure to click like. It does go a long way in pushing the channel and helping spread the content around. And just helping us all have a better and more exciting community. So anyways, one more time, thank you guys so much for joining, and we will see you on Friday at 1:30 p.m. PST. Take it easy.